Now it's time for the Rob Johnson Sports Show, presented by the Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Yeah, y'all like that intro. I know y'all like that intro. Again, my name is Rob Johnson. Welcome to my show. Please like, share, and help us grow. Tonight features Mr. Larry Patterson once again from Game Time 365 Sports. How you doing tonight, sir? How are we doing? How are we doing on this Sunday, NCAA Bracket Sunday?
What's going on, Rob? How you doing? What's up to everybody out there? What's up to all the sports lovers, haters, addicts, fanatics? We talk some sports tonight, man.
Most definitely, and we are going to start with our top five. We're gonna give us your top five. You're gonna expound on what you want to talk about. Give you about 5-6 minutes. Do what you got to do. We got time. Give us your top five NFL, your top five free agency moves so far, and then we're gonna go NCAA tournament. We're not gonna go too deep into the tournament. We'll, just some interesting matchups. We're not going to pick the champions. We're not going to pick the finals for tonight because we still got to do our brackets. So we'll study, but we'll pick some of the interesting matchups. I just talk about a little bit. And then number three, our last topic, Caleb Williams to the Bears. It's almost a foregone conclusion. Will it be a success or a failure? So we'll go through that. But Mr. Larry Patterson of 365's Game Time, 365 Sports. Sir, go ahead and give everybody your top five free agents, 5 through 1.
All right, so number 5, I'm going to go Marquise Brown to the Chiefs. Now, this one right here, to me, it's like the rich get richer. And you already have a Rashee Rice. You still got Travis Kelce. You add Marquise Brown to this situation, man, it's not going to be good for opposing defenses. And I don't, of course, I don't really care for the Chiefs, but I got to respect the moves that they be making. So I really respect this move right here. I think that they're going to do fine. Number 4, the Brian Burns trade to the Giants. Now, they already have some good pass rushers over there with Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari, with Dexter Lawrence in the middle. Now you add Brian Burns to this mix, man, and as well as Bobby Okereke controlling that middle. I think that Giants defense is going to be pretty solid. They got to do what they got to do on the other side of the ball, which we already know that. We already know how that. But that defense, I think that defense is going to be pretty solid. They're going to be making some noise. Danielle Hunter at number 3. Danielle Hunter to the Texans. Danielle Hunter had a career high 16.5 sacks last year. We already know how he can rush the passer. The Texans have been making solid moves, especially on the defensive side of the ball. DeMeco Ryans is really trying to make a statement over there, trying to get that defense right. They also added Danico Autry and Tim Settle for depth. Then you add Joe Mixon, the bell cow, to pair with Dameon Pierce. Man, I think the Texans are gonna make some noise too. Got to give a shout out to the running backs. Now, remember the running backs last year, they were squatted on, and they weren't getting the deals. This year, the running backs got deals, got big deals. DeAndre Swift got 3 years, $24.5 million to the Bears. Saquon Barkley, 3 years, $37.75 to the Eagles. He's gonna make some noise if everything goes right. If from Jalen Hurts to the offensive line and everything goes right, I think Saquon Barkley can have a very big year. Josh Jacobs got the bag finally, $48 million over 4 years. Tony Pollard, 3 years for 24. To the Titans, the running backs got the bag this year. And my number 1 is Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
Who was your number 2, Larry?
The running backs were my number 2. My bad.
Okay, so
Yeah,
but give us a specific guys. I know it's the running backs. Give us one specific running back out of all those. That if you think like number 2, if you could give us like one specific guy who you think is gonna make that real big difference for his team.
I'm gonna say Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Josh Jacobs. I put all of them in there. and I know we're supposed to just do one, but I put all of them in there because it's one position. So, uh, I just wanted to show love to those running backs. But yeah, Josh Jacobs to me, and then Derrick Henry is my number one. I think that they're going to go back to that old school type of football, that ground and pound. The Ravens, it's got to be put on the field first, but on paper right now, the Ravens are looking pretty damn good. You got Keaton Mitchell. You saw him in his flashes last year. They still got Justice Hill. You can put any running back in their system. They going for over 4 yards a carry. So Derrick Henry, I believe he will go back to Derrick Henry things. And Lamar Jackson, don't forget about him. The way he run that ball too. So I'm also going to add a little another one. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. I think the Titans offense is going to be making some noise with DeAndre Hopkins, Will Levis going into his second year. I believe they're going to make some noise over there.
Let me ask you about that. So when you look at a guy like Josh Jacobs, do you think that he is actually going to be an upgrade over what they had?
If healthy, remember
he kind of struggled last year, so a little
remember,
bit. But the quarterback situation was kind of bad.
You cut out there for a minute.
You got me back. You hear me?
Yeah, I got you back.
Okay. Yeah. I think you froze on me for. Hold on, let me make sure I got you back. Hold on 1 second. Exit solo. All right, we good?
Yeah, we good.
All right, cool. Because he didn't have good quarterback play last year, so now he has Jordan Love. So with Jordan Love, do you think that's going to help him get to where he needs to be?
I think it will. I think remember he came off that 1,600 yards the year before last year, and last year he had the down year. It was the Raiders. It was the Raiders, but I think with him going over there, the things that they're building over there in Green Bay, I think that they're gonna pound that ball. You still got AJ Dillon over there too. I think Josh Jacobs is gonna do some real big things over there in Green Bay, man.
Okay, and then we look at Danielle Hunter. What do you think he brings to that Texans defense, especially with their head coach and everything he's done on defense in the past?
Man, pass rush, super heavy pass rush. Remember, they did draft Will Anderson Jr. What was it, second or third overall last year?
Great player.
So a lot of people was questioning did the Texans make the right move for sitting here for trading, giving up all those draft picks to trade up to get him, and I think it paid off. He was defensive rookie of the year. You put Danielle Hunter, who's a great pass rusher, on the other side. That's one thing that the Texans do need. They needed that pass rush, man, and he brings that heavy pass rush side to it. So I think that he's going to do well over there as well.
Brian Burns, you look at his career, 48 career sacks. He's played since 2019. His biggest production was in 2022 when he had 12 and a half sacks. Last year, he had 8 sacks. Again, we go back to 12 and a half in 2022. 21, he had 9 and 20, and 19, he had 7 and a half. Do you think that, like I said, we know it's a good move, but do you think that he'll be able to bring that? Okay, so let me break this down a little more. And I believe, who was it who said it? I think it was Shannon Sharp. I think it was either Shannon Sharp or somebody else. I can't remember who said it. But when the Giants win Super Bowls and they go to Super Bowls, they have strong defensive lines. Going back to when they beat the Broncos, when they beat the Buffalo Bills, and when they beat the Patriots twice. If they hadn't had a strong defensive line, they're not beating the Patriots twice. So,
right.
even though Daniel Jones looked mediocre, if that defense can get back to what it needs to be, and they can get a guy like Malik Neighbors in the draft, do you think they're on the right path? Because the offensive line hasn't been getting back. Do you think they would be on the right path to getting back to winning NFC East crowns?
I do. I feel like they'll be on the right track. The one thing, the one question would be, how would Daniel Jones look in 2024? He didn't look good last year. Of course, he got hurt. He missed a big chunk of the year. So um, Brian Daboll kind of had, you can kind of tell what Brian Daboll was going to do. You seen with the work he did with Josh Allen. You could kind of tell where he was going with Daniel Jones. He's a running quarterback. You know,
Mhm.
he's got a decent arm, so you can kind of tell where he was going with it.
Yeah.
To me, though, I feel like if you draft Brock Bowers, you just lost Darren Waller to he's retired now, just retired. So if you draft you a Brock Bowers, I know they're gonna need a quarterback. You can wait on that. But if you draft you a Brock Bowers, I feel like they are, and with their defense, I feel like they are on the right track.
Yeah. Well, here's the other problem if you're Daniel Jones. I know we're getting a little off track here, but all this ties in. If you're Daniel Jones, you got to worry about Tommy DeVito because regardless of what anybody says about the young man, yes, he had his little struggles towards the end of the season. Tyrod came in, had a good end of the game against the Eagles and played well towards the end of the season. DeVito showed flashes, and DeVito out of Illinois has a lot of athleticism. So if Jones does not show up, man, they're going to yell for him in New Jersey. They're going to yell for him because he has the ability to play good football. And as you say, a guy like Brock Bowers, that safety blanket, and then possibly getting some more players in as well.
Now, what if you think that, what do you think of this? They take a quarterback later on in the draft, like we've been talking about, here
Well,
and
if you're going to take a quarterback later in the draft, and I'll say this, if Bo Nix is still sitting there at past 25, or if you can at least get if the Giants can get a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix early in the second round or late in the first round, that is a steal all the way. Or let's say they want to draft for need and they need to build their team. Fine. I would love to see a Spencer Rattler in blue. I think Spencer Rattler for the Giants. Spencer Rattler is going to be, and I continue to say this, he's going to be somebody's gem when it comes to this NFL draft. And, I saw a graphic before we got on here. They were talking about the 49ers, how they draft well. It's not through free agency, it's through the draft. And yes, we're talking about free agency. Free agency is important, but it's about plugging in key holes. That's why, like a lot of the huge signings, we're not really a fans of it because we know that we're more worried about like the signings you said. They're big signings, but they're not like gigantic signings. Derrick Henry's 30 now, so it's not like he's 24, 25, but it's a hole that they need because if you look at the AFC Championship game, there is no reason that the Baltimore Ravens should not have ran football more than what they did. The game plan was horrific. So if you have a Derrick Henry going into next year's, if they go back to an AFC Championship game and they don't run the ball to Derrick Henry, then we got to start to question the Baltimore Ravens and their offensive play calling at that point. I mean, is that accurate that we can say that?
No, that's very accurate. And what's the point of bringing that? What's that offensive coordinator from Georgia that they brought in? I'm blanking on his name.
I believe I know it's like Todd Monken.
Todd Monken. So it's
Yeah.
like, what's the purpose? He came from a run first situation, and you coming over to an NFL team that loves to run the ball. I hated that game plan that they put together against Kansas City because that's what the run game is what got you there. Why not
Yeah.
continue? So you bringing a guy like him. I know he's 30, but you bringing a guy like him and you put him in that right situation, that run first offense. Hey man, I think it could work.
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't get hurt because the Ravens have a history of their running backs getting hurt. Now, here's my turn for me to go, and let me stop. I saw Skip Bayless. All right, here we go on my top five. Now, my top five, I think we resemble each other in some aspects, but there was a name you missed on there that I'm very surprised that you missed. All right, so number five, this is an underrated signing. People are going to really, and the team that let him go because he was a backup, but they're going to regret losing him. Now they have other guys that can plug in. Number five, Dorrance Armstrong to the Washington Commanders. This
Ooh,
this guy in 2022, let me tell you guys how good Dorrance Armstrong is. First of all, he's out of Kansas, and we know that there are gyms all in Kansas. All we got to do is ask you. Their gems could come through all through Kansas. Now, he came in the league in 2018, so he's about, let's say he's about 26, 27 years old, 25, 26, 27 years old. He wasn't even a starter. And in 2021, he really got going. So in 2021, he had 5 sacks as a backup. In 2022, he had 8.5 sacks as a backup. And in 2023, he had 7.5 sacks, 18 tackles, 38 combined with 18 assisted tackles. He is going to be very good in Washington. Now, it's all about how they do things. Dan Quinn is a really good offensive mind. But as we've seen with Dan Quinn, when it gets towards his tenure, he starts to struggle. He struggled in Atlanta. We saw it. He struggled in Seattle towards the end. He struggled in Dallas towards the end. So it's all going to be about the culture. Ken Dorrance Armstrong going to Washington, different culture, different city. Can he be motivated? So I think if he's motivated, that's something that can help the Washington Commanders. Number 4, I got to go ahead.
Let me ask a question on that. So by that signing, do you think that one of those tackles are going to be going, preferably the Jonathan Allen?
No, because Dorrance Armstrong is more of a defensive. He's a
I know
defensive.
he's an end,
Yeah,
but
he's an end. And honestly, I'm a big Chase Young fan. He's got a little more nastiness than Chase Young right now at their in their careers right now. He's got a little more nastiness. Dorrance Armstrong is a nasty dude. He plays with a big time motor. But again, how is he going to be when he leaves the confines of Dallas, Texas? I mean, he's pretty comfortable. He had a backup role. Now there's going to probably be a little pressure on him. Go in, start for this team, etc. So we'll see how things go. Plus, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but I call it, how I have my theories in football? Like I have this theory, that theory. I also have the Tony Pollard theory. And this is what I'm worried about when you're talking about him when he goes to Tennessee. He's not an every down back. He's
right.
one of the guys you need to be able to spare. So a guy like Dorrance Armstrong, the thing I worry about in a sense is, can he really play every down? Does need to be spared? Because the Washington Commanders made a lot of big signings, even with the linebacker Bobby Wagner. But Wagner's 33, 34. He's not 25 anymore. So, but I think these moves short term will be good, but long term they got to make sure they make the right moves. But I think Dorrance Armstrong to Washington is an underrated move if he can do the same things he did in Dallas plus more. Number 4, I have to be honest. I have to be honest and agree with you. Brian Burns, great pickup for the Giants. He needed a fresh start. He needed to get out of Carolina. Sometimes you get a fresh start, maybe you can go and do better things. So I agree with you on that. Number 3, I'm surprised you missed this one. Patrick Queen to the Steelers. That is huge. That was the bell cow in Baltimore. He set the tone. He had an attitude. I think that is really going to help the Steelers. This is the best defense that Russell Wilson hint has had since his Seattle days. Number 2, very simple for me. Marquise Hollywood Brown out of Oklahoma. He first started with the Ravens. He went to the Cardinals. He played pretty decently with the Cardinals last year. He had 51 catches for 574 yards, 4 touchdowns, but he got injured. Now, his biggest season was in 2021. He had 91 catches with Lamar Jackson. 91.
His
So if
only
he
1,000-yard season too.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. This guy has the ability to have a big season. And the thing is, I don't think they're going to completely give up on Kadarius Toney. I don't think they are. I think Kadarius Toney was going through some stuff off the field, etc. Now, I just want you to think about this. Rice, a motivated Toney, okay, where they can get him his head straight, and Marquise Hollywood Brown. And then you still have the ability to draft a receiver. Look, Larry. And this. I know you don't want to hear this, my friend. The draft features guys from the 1st to the 7th round that can start in this league today.
Absolutely.
Today. So the Chiefs are going to get that big. They're going to get that big piece regardless. So loving Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh and Fields was a complete surprise. Well, Darrell, you spoiled the surprise, my friend. And before I get to my number 1, let me say it about Justin Fields. It's not a surprise he went to Pittsburgh. You know why? Because Kenny Pickett. One thing I don't like, guys, and I'll say it to you, Larry. Kenny Pickett's got to pass because he cried last year. He cried this year when Russell Wilson came in. He's able to go to Philadelphia, get a fresh start. But no, this quarterback crop last year threw 17 touchdowns between three quarterbacks. Russell Wilson had 26 by himself. So that's why at number one, it's Russell Wilson. And it's very simple. It's not because I think that he can take them to the Super Bowl, which I think he has a possibility, especially with this roster now, maybe get to a second round, maybe an AFC championship game, but at most a second round. That's because they're paying him $1.2 million. And the Broncos are footing the rest of the bill. They're paying the rest of that bill almost $30 million. So I give it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have a professional quarterback. And I don't mean to diss Mason Rudolph. I don't mean to diss Kenny Pickett. They actually have a professional quarterback now who is on his way to 400 passing touchdowns. He's got almost 40,000 yards. He'll be at 40,000 passing yards sooner rather than later. And you have a guy who played, in my opinion, very good last year, but for a head coach who just didn't want him. A head coach in Sean Payton who still has to prove that he's good without Drew Brees. Now, I think the Broncos get back to where they need to get to because they're a great franchise, no doubt about it. One of the great franchises ever in this league. I think with what, they got 3 Super Bowls, correct? 3 or 4 Super Bowls? 3 Super Bowls? Yeah, they should have 7 or 8. But a great franchise. But I think a guy like Russell Wilson is the best free agent pickup because number one, he's cheap. He's a future Hall of Famer, and he's a quarterback. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, with adding Patrick Queen, they're going to add some receivers in the draft. This has become the best defense that Russell Wilson has had since the middle 2010s.
And not to mention, Pittsburgh did pick up what they traded Deontay Johnson,
which was a smart move because he was no longer happy.
And then you add Dante Jackson on the other side, who's a pretty good corner. You pair him up with Joey Porter Jr.
One of the best young duos besides probably Diggs and Bland. But Bland still has to prove himself. So right now, I give it to Pittsburgh for sure.
And then with that running back duo with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Here's one thing I want to say: was it a cry for Kenny Pickett, or was it because the team maybe promised him some things that they reneged on?
Well, Larry, that's the problem. Pittsburgh. See, sometimes in sports, especially in football and in life, when people start promising you things and you haven't done anything, that should be a sign that they're just trying to spare your feelings. Like, what has Kenny Pickett? Well, I remember when Kenny Pickett came out of Pittsburgh, right? I did not believe in him then, and I don't believe in him now. I actually asked a question last year. I said, and I believe my guy Paul Schofield, who's a really good basketball analyst, we talked about it. We said, do you believe in Kenny Pickett? And he said no. And I said the same thing. I don't. I mean, come on, man. Look at this. He's been in the league. He came in 2022, right? 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Now, I understand sometimes you got to give people time to develop. But when you watch a Kenny Pickett game, how much of them do you believe in? How much of them do you really believe in? I mean, Mason Rudolph came in and made the Steelers look like a comparable team.
I believe in Kenny Pickett just as much as I believed in Russell Wilson last year.
Well, that's what here's the thing: 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Well, let me ask you this: if Kenny Pickett was the quarterback of the Denver Broncos last year, what would their record have been?
Oh, we probably wouldn't have won 4 games.
No, you wouldn't. No. They would have gone 0-16. They would have gone 0-17, 0-18 easily. Because when you look at Russell Wilson, the people can say what they want to about him. He went on the road. He beat Buffalo, right? A Buffalo team that should have been in the AFC Championship game. Let's be completely honest. He beat the Minnesota Vikings. He beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, they stunk it up the first time. But again, and I get it. You're a Broncos fan. You didn't like the contract. I get it.
You can take the Bills on that special teams for that, because they definitely should have won that game, man.
Oh, they should have. But listen, again, that's another discussion for another day. Me and you will have a conversation pretty soon about head coaches, because Sean McDermott got a clear pass. We're not going to get into that right now. We'll get into that in a few weeks. We're going to talk about some coaches in the NFL who are truly on the hot seat. And with Bill Belichick looking over everybody's shoulder, there's a lot of coaches on the hot seat. But again, Kenny Pickett, if he had been the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, they would have stunk. He's not a good quarterback. You know, when he came out of Pittsburgh, there was this whole thing about, oh, he's going to Pittsburgh, the hometown kid. I was like, he's not that good. It's like I keep trying to tell people about Drake May and, guys like this. Larry, I think Kenny Pickett, as I said then, if he had went and maybe in the second round, sat for 3 or 4 years, he would have been decent. But he's not that guy. And that's why I go to this year, like a guy like J.J. McCarthy. He needs to sit. The only guys that are really ready, in my opinion, right now, that's a sure thing, is Caleb Williams. I give it to J.T. Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. I think those guys are ready now. But I just don't look at a guy like Kenny Pickett and he's not ready. Kenny Pickett was never ready. And when you're going to a situation, think about this. You go in a situation where you're going into a team that's dominated by defense, Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Big Ben was an outlier. And you got to remember, it took him years to even get to that level. But it was because of Antonio Brown. Again, we can have that conversation for another day. Antonio Brown, when he came on, that's when that team's offense started getting going. But then when he left, that's when the offense started having issues again. So it's all about the pieces that's around you. And I'm sorry, when you have a George Pickens on your football team and you can't get him the football, that's a problem. And one is the one good thing about Russell Wilson. He knows how to do what? Throw the deep ball. Oh, Pickens is going to have a party this upcoming season. I expect him to be all pro. If he's not, it's a daggone shame.
We shall see what happens then when Pickett starts crying because he's not getting the ball. Then we'll see.
But again, that's the thing. In any job you work or anything you do in life, when you don't work with professionals. Now, you ever been at a job and there's a bunch of young people and it's like, oh my God, they're doing all this craziness and they're doing all this extra stuff that just doesn't mean anything. They're just being dumb. Then you go to a job when you're working with people who are mature, grown adults. Now, if you go there with a bunch of grown adults and they're acting stupid, then they got to look in the mirror for themselves. But when you go to a job and you're working with actual adults, people who handle business, this is what Russell Wilson's going to bring. Think about it. You've been playing with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. What are they going to tell George Pickens, a stud out of the University of Georgia? I tell you what Russell Wilson can do. Here's a Super Bowl ring. If I was Russell Wilson, I would go and come into the room with him. I sit George Pickens down. I was like, here you go, son. Here's my Super Bowl ring. Here's my Super Bowl ring. Did Kenny Pickett have one of those? Hell, I don't think Kenny Pickett wasn't even close to a championship in college. Mason Rudolph, he played Oklahoma State. What kind of championship was he near? Come on now. Here's my Super Bowl ring. Trust in me. That's why I think this is such an important move, because now a guy like Pickens can actually look at a guy and say, hey, man, this guy has credibility. What credibility did Kenny Pickett have? What kind of credibility?
He didn't have any.
No. Russell Wilson was a third-round pick who came in and took a dude's job in the preseason. And led this team to the playoffs.
One note about the one fact about the Pittsburgh quarterbacks combined only threw for like 13 touchdowns.
I think it was like 17.
No, was it? No, because I think Mason threw 3. I think Pickett threw 6, and Trubisky threw like 4.
Okay. I think it was more than 13, but
you can check Pro Football Reference real quick. I think it was 13. And they didn't even throw 15 touchdowns like combined. So, I mean, them bringing Russell in, I mean, he comes into a healthier situation. I can see this team going to the playoffs.
Well, I mean, think about it. They went to the playoffs last year. They
Yeah,
went to the playoffs last year, and they pretty much were trash.
right.
So before we get to the NCAA, what do you think about some of these quarterbacks who keep getting jobs who stink?
Or like the Nathan
I mean,
Peter.
well, first of all, how did Jimmy Garoppolo get a job when he had the whole PED scandal? We had the whole PED thing.
Oh man, I don't know. He was already suspended 2 years to begin the year. One thing about Jimmy, man, a lot of
Well, no,
people.
I don't think it was 2 years. It was only like maybe for like 3 games or
Oh
something
yeah,
like.
it was 2 games. It was 2 games.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
three, two,
That's
three
it.
games. Yeah,
Oh my bad. 2 games. But one thing about Jimmy though,
you're right. You're right. 13, 13. Oh my God, that's horrible.
right?
Jesus Christ. You know what I was looking at? I was looking at interceptions. That's 13 touch. Oh my God. How you
13
have
touchdowns,
13
and you still
touchdowns
made
between
the
three
playoffs.
quarterbacks?
You still made the playoffs, and you could have won the game against the Bills. To be honest, like you had a chance.
Yeah, but they're missing one. They're missing Watt. Watt
Yeah.
was hurt for the game. So yeah, but go ahead with your point, man. I apologize, but go ahead with your point.
Uh, what was I saying? I
You
was
were
about
Jimmy
Oh, Jimmy
Garoppolo
G, when you put him in the
even
right,
though,
you put him in
he
the right
sucked last
situation,
year.
like he is. If you look at his numbers, you put him in the right situation, he is a winner. You know, even last year, in some of the games that he played, like he did, and especially the Denver game in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the season. A couple of those games with the Raiders, like he can win. You just got to put the right situation around him.
I mean, but we've already seen, man, what this guy is all about. So I mean, all right. So let's go, everybody, now to our next subject. This would be one out of this would be the second out of three topics. And hey, Larry, you got your bracket I sent you?
Yeah, but I can't see it right now. It's on my phone. I'm
Okay,
on.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I got this up so you can look at your phone if you need to. Um, Basically, we're gonna just look over the East West real quick, and I'll just give you something that's interesting. We're not gonna pick the Final Four or anything, but just we're gonna look at each side real quick, East West, and then go over to the right side, the South and the Midwest. Um, I think, and I'll give my analysis first, and then you give yours real quick, but just what you see. For me, UConn is the best team in the nation. I don't see them losing to any damn body. I mean, I don't care who it is. Auburn is a dangerous team going down this thing. Hey, how in the world did Iowa State not be a 1 seed, man? What is up with that?
That's kind of crazy. I mean, they did.
Politics, right? It's got to be politics.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because
Beating.
Carolina's a 1 seed, and they got beat by an NC State team who had no business being in the damn in tournament. But they won the ACC tournament. But they had, I guess, I don't know. It just I'm a Carolina fan, but I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, and then with Iowa winning the Big 12 tournament, beating the number 1 seed, like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
that's crazy. By the way, salute to those Longwood Lancers. They got to play a 16 seed on Friday, playing Houston.
Yeah.
Yikes.
We'll,
Uh,
we'll yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the Midwest and all that. We're still on East West, but I wanted to bring this up to you as well. How in the world did 19 and 14 Michigan State make the NCAA tournament? I was not a fan of that. I think because they would be playing North Carolina in the second round, they can get past Mississippi State, but that's just whack to me, man. Why? How in the world did Michigan State get in with a 19 and 14 record?
mm, some of these decisions are criminal. I'm being honest.
Well, that's one of the reasons we're not talking about the women's tonight, man. The women's bracket, I told you before the show, completely pissed me off. Like it's when you talk about criminal, it's horrible, man. Like it's that bad. Like when you talk about the women's, I know you haven't seen the bracket, but man, it is bad. I mean, when I tell you it's bad, you want to talk about criminal. That situation is criminal when you talk about the women's bracket, especially when it comes to a team like Richmond got to play against Duke again when Duke already beat them early in the season. Uh, Richmond deserved a lot better than what they got from the committee.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Going down the rest of the bracket, honestly, Larry, I don't really see anything, bro, I don't see anything that really intrigues me. Now, what I will say is Dayton out of the A10. I know you watched the A10 as well. Dayton is a dangerous team because Deron Holmes, their center. Arizona has been very vulnerable lately. Um, Long Beach State, I don't think they have a chance to beat Arizona, but I think that game will be interesting. It's a lot of interesting matchups. Like I'll give you one team, Grand Canyon against St. Mary. Grand Canyon can play. Grand Canyon's 29-4. They can play some basketball. So
Absolutely.
that's all I really see on that side. Give me your thoughts on the East-West side. Anything that intrigues you, anything that's like, really, something that you that you see that pops in your mind on the East-West side.
What do you think about this Drake matchup? The Drake Washington State matchup. I think
Oh,
Drake,
Drake is dangerous. Drake
yeah,
is dangerous. They're a team that has they've got guards. They can play. They can play all types. They can play anything on the floor. But their problem is that they got to go against Iowa State in the second round. So Iowa State is really dangerous right now. If this was against anybody else, I'm like, yo, Drake could possibly get to the Sweet 16. But Iowa State is on a mission, man, and how they're a number. I think them being a 2 seed is going to piss them off even more than they're already pissed off, to be honest with you, because there's no reason in the world Iowa State should be a 2 seed. There's just no reason, no reason. You cannot change my mind, not whatsoever.
I totally agree, bro. I totally agree with that one.
What else do you see in this bracket? This bracket's a little funky because some of the matchups, if you really look at it, it's like, Now I will say that Duquesne team who beat VCU today, they're pretty decent. They're a good team. Their coach, we actually interviewed their coach back in A10 Media Day back in 2017. So he's been there 7 years. DeBolt. So yeah, he's been there. So that team is always going to be prepared to play. So that Duquesne team is pretty good. Do
That
I
was a
think?
pretty good game today.
Hmm?
That was a pretty good game today against
Well,
VCU.
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. VCU let the game get away from them too early, and then by the time they tried to get back into the game, it was just too much. Let me get his full name. Keith DeBrot. I'm going to make sure I get his name right. Keith DeBrot. He was our interview. He was actually my interview. I have to see if I can pull the interview for you guys and here in tournament time if Duquesne can do anything. I interviewed him during his first stint as Duquesne coach for the Legacy Maker Sports Network back in 2017 in Washington, D.C. That was a huge moment. He's actually done very well through this Duquesne program. Um, Anything else you see in this East-West side that kind of sticks out to you, or is it kind of just like at this point kind of it looks kind of like it kind of looks chalk in a lot of senses.
Yeah. Nothing else here. I believe Grand Canyon got a good chance, like you said earlier. But nah.
I'm I forgot one thing. Let me point this out. Do not be surprised if Charleston beats Alabama. Charleston out of CAA is a really good basketball team. They know how to shoot the three. They know how to do a lot of good things. They know how to do a lot of things well on the basketball court, and they're well coached. That Charleston team very dangerous, and Alabama's been struggling a little bit. I think they've had some injuries as well. So, um, yeah, I do see some possible upsets here. In the past, I would say South Dakota State had a chance, but as I said, Iowa State's on a mission. That's a good call by you on Drake against Washington State. Yeah, they're dangerous. Let's go to the first four in Howard versus Wagner. Who do you have in that matchup?
I want to take Howard.
I got Howard as well. Howard is a pretty decent team. I believe that they beat. Did they beat? I think they beat Norfolk State on their road here. Virginia, who? Why the hell is Virginia in the tournament? Like, okay, Virginia versus Colorado State, brother. Who you got? I mean, no offense to Virginia, we covered them, but they didn't deserve to be in this tournament. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say this. I think Virginia is going to squeak by in this one, but here's the thing with Virginia, man. Sometimes you got to do something a little different. Every damn year we come in with the deep. Now they play very good defense.
Tony
But
Bennett teams play very good defense, man, but they gotta get their offense going, brother.
gotta get the offense right, man.
You almost had to hit the sensor on you.
Yo, because I was definitely about to say it. But I'm so frustrated with Tony Bennett's with his offense, man. Like every year we come in with the same philosophy. Come on, bro. And now you're in a play-in. You're in a play-in because you couldn't take care of business during the season, and especially during this tournament. How many years of this we're going to be getting?
Exactly. I get really frustrated with Virginia, and I think that sometimes, brother, the problem is that people think that Virginia is going to that Virginia and if but here's the thing though, and we'll get to their bracket in a second. If they win, then they got to play Texas, and quite honestly, man, they can beat Texas. We'll get to the South and Midwest in a second, but they can beat Texas. Montana State and Grambling. I got Grambling in this. I think Grambling is I think they're a decent team. They're not going to win their first round matchup because if they were to win, they would have to, let me see what they have to play here. If Grambling won, they'd have to play, who is that? I'm missing. Let's see here. Number one seed. They have to play Purdue. But the way Purdue plays, who knows?
Yeah,
the way Purdue is, who knows? But yeah, but they're not. Purdue is not losing to Grambling, so I think Grambling over Montana State. You got the same thing.
I got Grambling too.
Gotcha. Colorado and Boise State. Boise State's a dangerous team, but I'm not gonna say they're dangerous as they can beat as they'll go to the Final Four. But they're just one of those sneaky teams. And they played VCU early in the season, I believe. They're just one of those sneaky teams that you really got to watch. So, who do you have in that between Colorado and Boise State?
I'm gonna take the Buffs.
You gonna take the Buffs?
I'm gonna take the Buffs on that one. They were just in the one thing, just in the championship game, or
yeah. Hey,
yeah.
you know what's crazy? And you know what's crazy? I'm surprised VCU didn't get in because you look at VCU, they lost to. Here's the crazy thing, bro. And this is how close you are.
Didn't
And
get
this is
in?
how they didn't get in. This is how close you are to being in the NCAA tournament. Listen to this. This is crazy. Samford is a really good basketball team. In fact, Samford is 29-5, and we'll get to them in a second. VCU beat them by 10. When you first looked at VCU's non-conference schedule, you're like, oh yeah, whatever, man. They didn't play nobody. They played McNeese State. That's a name that everybody knows, and we're about to get into. They lost to them by 11. They beat Samford by 10. They lost to Iowa State, who should have been a 1 seed. They lost to them 68-64.
Mm.
They lost to Boise State 65-61. But I think the two losses that hurt them was Memphis, because they lost to Memphis by 5, but I think Memphis was nearly ranked. But the loss that hurt VCU was the 63-60 loss to Norfolk State. I think that right there killed their chances completely of being in the NCAA tournament. But yeah, man, they were so close. All they had to do was win today and then win those 2 games right there against Boise and Iowa State. And shoot, they would have been in the NCAA. They would have been in the big dance easily.
Wow.
Yeah, see, that close. They were that close.
Yeah, this is my first time like looking at. As I told you earlier, it's like my first time actually like looking at the matchups.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's crazy for VCU, man.
Crazy. But look, we're gonna go over to the Midwest and South side. I think we still got about a good 20 minutes left, 25 minutes left in this because we're gonna get to the Bears. But for all the people out there who do not know about the Longwood Lancers, sir, please give them the rundown and why they have a chance to win this game against the number 1 Houston Cougars.
I don't know if they got a chance. Houston's coming off that Big 12 championship loss, man. I know they're kind of angry. They've been number 1 for pretty much all season, pretty much. So
But
when you talk about, go ahead.
I said they do have some questionable losses though.
They got some questionable losses. And then one thing about Longwood, the head coach Griff Aldridge. Now, he does have history in this tournament. Remember back in 2017-18 when UMBC was a 16 seed and Virginia was a 1 seed. Well, Griff Aldridge was an assistant coach on that team. So, and ever since he's been over at Longwood, 2 NCAA tournament appearances in 3 years. So one thing I asked him about that today, they one thing about this tournament, going in this tournament, you don't know what's going to happen. So everybody's got a shot, but we'll see what happens. I'm definitely gonna be rooting for him, but we'll see what happens.
If you have a key player from Longwood who could change the trajectory of this game and pull off a huge upset, who do you have?
I'm gonna go Waylon Napper. Waylon Napper for the last 3 games, he's been was scoring 20, 16, and he had a 10-point triple double in the game against Asheville in the championship game. Waylon Napper is their best player of the game. On the defensive end, he's been pretty good as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm Waylon Napper, and then Longwood is currently 20th in the whole country in rebounding. They've been in double digits, ranked in double digits in rebounding the whole season, and they're tied. Get this, they're tied with Houston
Mm-hmm.
at 7th in the country in offensive rebounds. So
That's huge.
Sheeman Sapala, the big 7-footer, we'll see what he can bring. He's been scoring 17 points in the last 2 games. Also, D.A. Houston, he's a dog on defense. We'll see. Michael Christmas has been scoring from 3 efficiently in the past 2 games as well. So it's a big contest, man. I'm definitely ready for it.
I really don't think that Houston is the strongest number one. They're a really good number one. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong, but they can get got, right? Like they can get got. Houston, we've entered the era where we have number one seeds. You remember back in the day we had certain number one seeds. They were just so dominant, like you knew they were not going to lose. Now your number one seeds are a little vulnerable. You know, you look at a Purdue, you look at a Houston, even looking at North Carolina. Now you look at UConn. No, UConn is a throwback number one seed where no, they're not getting beat. They're not going to get beat. So that's just the bottom line on that. Looking at this bracket, I give Longwood a chance to stick in this game for a while. Do I think they'll win? No. Do I think they can stick in this thing and make it interesting? Yes, I do. Looking at the rest of this bracket, the things that stick out to me is this. Well, first of all, 31-3 James Madison. They're beating Wisconsin.
Hey,
And they're going to probably.
can you put your bracket back up?
Oh, yeah, I got you. Give me 1 second. There we go.
There we go.
Thanks for that, sir. James Madison, they're going to beat Wisconsin, okay? And then they're going to go ahead.
I feel like that too. I feel like they're gonna beat them.
Yeah. They're a good team. And then in the second round, they're probably going to get Duke. It's UConn and 67 other teams that are just there. I agree with you, sir. I agree. I totally agree. Even as a North Carolina fan, it doesn't. I cannot say that North Carolina can beat UConn right now after what I just saw against NC State. But going back again to the bracket, I feel like second round they can beat Duke as well. James Madison is a really good basketball team. Going down the bracket a little more, Texas Tech and NC State will be interesting because I think that NC State is hot right now. They could probably beat a Texas Tech for sure. Man, this Kentucky against Oakland game, Kentucky should win that, but Kentucky's been struggling lately, so we'll see how that goes. Marquette, they play against Western Kentucky. Don't sleep on Western Kentucky, but I think that Marquette will win that. Purdue, I think they kind of got to break the first 2 rounds, even though I will say this, though, Larry. In the 8-9 matchup, Utah State and TCU, one of those teams can definitely beat a Purdue. TCU, especially if they get going and get rolling, TCU has the ability to beat a lot of teams in the nation. So I'll definitely give you that. Now, this matchup, this 12-5 between McNeese Cowboys and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. McNeese State is dangerous, my man. Like they
30.
went into VCU and beat them by 11. They beat them pretty good. Gonzaga's in trouble. All right, Gonzaga's in trouble, and then Kansas. Yo, It's not inconceivable that we could have McNeese State against Sanford
in the second round.
in the second round because Kansas has a lot of injuries. Kansas is not what they've been in the past. It's very good chance. Now, getting off that game, the next bracket in Pittsburgh, South Carolina. People are not going to believe me when I say this, but South Carolina could be one of those teams where they lose in the second round or could go to the Final Four very easily. The problem is they play an Oregon team who is hot right now. Oregon is a hot team. Oregon is one of those teams out of the Pac-12 that you see in the tournament that you just do not want to play. They're one every year. It's one of those. I know the Pac-12 is going to be disabled after this, and they're going to go to the Big Ten and spread on out, whatever. But it's always that West Coast team that you do not want to play, and Oregon is one of those teams you just don't want to play. Creighton against Akron. Expect it to be a close game. I like Creighton, but Creighton has its moments. Again, Texas, Virginia, Tennessee. Watch St. Peter's. St. Peter's is a very good basketball team. They're a confident basketball team, but I think Tennessee will end up beating them. Oregon is a sleeper. They finally are fully healthy. That's correct. TCU is a good team. Yeah, man. So we got the comments coming in about a lot of sleeper teams. But, yeah, that McNeese State team, I'm telling you right now, Larry, it wouldn't shock me if they were in the Final Four. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not trying, or not in the Final Four, but at least Elite Eight. It wouldn't shock me, man. That McNeese State Cowboys team is good.
It's 30-3.
They're 30-3, and man, they're legit. Like, listen, if that team went to the Final Four, people would be like, Cinderella. They're not really a Cinderella, my friend. They're not really a Cinderella. In fact, a lot of these teams aren't really Cinderellas. The only thing you could really quantify as a Cinderella is if Longwood, like your team, Longwood, if they went to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight, something like that. But everybody else, and then of course you got like the Montana States and Grambling, we get all that. But a lot of these teams who are lower seeds, like even you look at a Florida. Florida's a 7 seed. Florida was hot in the SEC championship game. Florida could go to the Elite Eight. It wouldn't shock nobody. It would shock nobody.
Back to Longwood though. Like, every team has their chance. Say if they do beat Houston,
it wouldn't shock me. It would listen. It wouldn't shock me again because Houston is not your traditional number 1 seed. Now, UConn is your throwback. Remember back in the day when you had those number 1 seeds like the Dukes back in the days when those type of number 1 seeds, like it would really be an upset.
Yeah.
But then you started getting to Virginia, you started getting Houston, certain number 1 seeds. It wouldn't shock me if Longwood won this game.
And then the next round, you're looking at either Nebraska or Texas A&M. They could possibly win that one too.
Well, listen, here's the problem. If you're Houston. Texas A&M is dangerous. Texas A&M, if they get hot from 3, if they can drive the ball in, they're a very good team. Nebraska has some good wins out of the Big Ten this year. They're another team if they get hot. Honestly, bro, at this point of the season, it is about who can catch fire. If you can catch fire during this time of year, you can get to the Elite Eight, maybe even the Final Four. But again, I'll say this. There is no team in this bracket, in this 68-man bracket, that can touch UConn right now. UConn is legit. They are back to old school UConn basketball, UConn standards. They have a chance to go back to back and win a national championship. North Carolina, I think, got the number 1 seed because of politics. I don't mean to say it like that, but they're North Carolina. Can they be dangerous? Yes, but if they play like they played against NC State the other night, they'll be out quick. But getting back to the Midwest and South, I think the Midwest and South region is the best region, honestly, when it comes to this entire thing, because the matchups are just so intriguing. What do you come off on that?
I agree with you, especially with now. You might look at it differently, but you look at a team like Virginia.
Yeah.
Now, if they do win that first four matchup, and then against Colorado State, and then they face against Texas, and say if you beat Texas, they already had that experience. Some of those guys might not be a bunch of those guys that's on that team, but
Mm-hmm.
some of those guys were on that championship team. Plus, with the coaching pedigree of
Tony
uh
Bennett.
Tony Bennett, so
Yeah.
uh, you can't count them out. It's kind of like a wild card team if you really think about it.
Well, well. I mean, and that's the thing. You look at a team like Virginia. You know, I know I kind of played up. I know I kind of played up St. Peter's, but let's just be honest. It's if Virginia can win the play-in and then win their game here, they would play at Tennessee. Um, if you look at Virginia, and that's the thing about Virginia that's frustrating. If you look at Virginia's early schedule, right? They beat Florida. Okay, they lost to Wisconsin by 24 points. They beat West Virginia, who wasn't a very good team. They beat A&M by 12. They beat Memphis by 20. Um, they had some decent wins on their schedule, um, but at the same time, but I think what really hurt Virginia's resume is when they lost to Tech 75-41, and then they
Oh,
lost to North Carolina, and then they barely beat Boston College. They lost to Duke 73-48. I mean, their resume just tells you that they don't belong in this spot. But again, defense travels. They have a very good defense. So could they make a little bit of a run? Possibly. Is the ACC a very competitive conference? Still, yes, today, no matter what people want to say about it.
yep,
But I just think that they could have got somebody else in there, man. Like, I think they could have got a more deserving team in there, in my opinion.
yeah.
What can I say? So let's go to the next and final subject. This is the one that everybody's been waiting for. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Caleb Williams to the Bears. Will it be a success or will it be a failure? For all those who do not know, we mentioned it a little bit earlier that the Chicago Bears traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a conditional 6th-round pick. I think that's great value. I thought that he would go and be a backup somewhere, learn, possibly the Miami Dolphins, because Tua always gets hurt, and you need a good backup. But I think this is a good situation for Fields going to Pittsburgh. I also think that in this situation, Caleb Williams, throughout all the scrutiny, people talking about this, talking about that, the fingernails, the whatever, all that stuff that's irrelevant. Your guy, Jay Cutler, was drafted by the Denver Broncos, went to the Bears, got him to an NFC Championship game before he sat the game out. I would say Jay Cutler is the best quarterback they've had. Now, if you do look at Mitchell Trubisky, we're talking about trial and errors, it wasn't his fault that the kicker missed that field goal. Just imagine how history would have changed if the Bears would have made that chip shot field goal. Not
Man,
only that, I want people to go back. Do you remember the game when they played the Saints on the Nickelodeon game for the playoffs? Remember that game? They played the
it,
Saints, and Mitchell Trubisky took them to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
yeah.
Mitchell Trubisky wasn't all his fault. Now, is Chicago cursed with quarterbacks? Probably. But I think that this marriage between Caleb Williams and Chicago Bears will be the best so far. I think he's going to be a great quarterback coming into the league. The Bears have added pieces. Keenan Allen, they've added other pieces. They look like they're serious about winning. If they keep at – go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's about damn time.
Yeah, it's about damn time. So, and let me get the NFL draft order because Let me get this real quick. Let me see. NFL Draft 2024. I think that the Bears have the #1 overall pick, and I believe they have another pick at number 9, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they have another pick at number 9. So let me make sure that's accurate. Number 9. So if you're the Chicago Bears, you pick Caleb Williams, and then you hope the Atlanta Falcons do something stupid. You hope teams do something stupid, and they don't pick Dallas Turner. Now, if Dallas Turner can get to Chicago with Montez Sweat, oh my God. Oh my God.
Man.
Do you understand? Do you really listen? It's just like last year with the Houston Texans when they got their quarterback and CJ Stroud, and they got Will Anderson. Oh, it would be the same thing all over again. Your thoughts on Caleb Williams? As we know now, he will be #1 overall pick, no matter what the Bears say. He will be #1 overall pick unless they swerve things and go for Jaden Daniels. Would you go Jaden Daniels or do you go Caleb Williams here?
Go Caleb Williams. You go Caleb Williams, and look at the moves that they made. Just like you said earlier, they come in with a Keenan Allen. They traded for a Keenan Allen. You traded for a DJ Moore last year. All right, you added a Gerald Everett at the tight end spot this year. You also still have Cole Kmet. You know, their offensive line has made improvements. Their defense was #1 in run defense. Their run defense is #1. So, and then you bring in your top corner. You sign your top corner in Jalen Johnson, who's a stud.
Yeah.
You bring in, you traded for Montez Sweat, who added 6 sacks over there. That pass rush wasn't even there before he got there. So I think the DeAndre Swift. Let's not forget about him. DeAndre Swift with a Khalil Herbert, who's a stud as well, and then a Rashawn Johnson who's going to go into his second year. I love Rashawn.
And I hate to cut you off here. I hate to cut you off, but if people honestly went back and looked at when Montez Sweat when he came in, look at the difference between when he left the Commanders and how they went down, and look at the Bears defense. The Bears defense absolutely transformed overnight.
Much improved.
Overnight. Now imagine bringing Dallas Turner in and pairing him with him. What would actually happen?
Man, that I'm telling you, people may be looking at. I'm not. Well, I was going to say, hey, they might could contend for the North, but let's give that another year. But the North, the NFC North is looking kind of strong, especially if they go through with it and don't F it up and draft Caleb Williams.
Well, I have the Bears in the Super Bowl within the next 4 years. I believe it was 2021. I said within the next half decade, the Jaguars and Bears will be in the Super Bowl. Now it's still up to the Jacksonville Jaguars to hold up their end of the bargain, but I see that. I don't mean to call people clowns or anything, or call people, not that smart. But I see all the stories about Caleb Williams online. And honestly, when I see a lot of people talking about Caleb Williams, and I see people calling him all these names and all this good stuff, to be very direct, I just think people are bored. I think people want to make up content. And in this time of AI and fake news and all that good stuff, people believe anything. Remember the story about him being picked up by the Dodgers for $700 million? Do you know people actually believe that? I'm not going to curse. People believed that ish. People believe all types of stories. But here's the bottom line, folks. The USC Trojans were giving up 1 million points a game last year, right? Caleb Williams was the only reason they were even relevant. They've been relevant the last 2 years. 2 years ago, he has them within a game of the national championship. This average USC team. Watch and see what USC turns into next year, right? He did, okay. He lost his one of his major weapons to the NFL. His major weapon goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Who did he really have this year? And he still passed for all those yards. He still passed for all those touchdowns.
What was it, Jerry Rice and Jerry Rice Jr.?
It was Jerry Rice Jr. and Jerry Rice Jr. this year, and that was pretty much it. He has some other decent weapons, but If you look at it, he lost one of his biggest targets to the NFL. And let me make sure I get his name correct because I don't want to. He lost Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
He lost Jordan Addison to the NFL. Imagine if he had Jordan Addison this year, what the USC Trojans could have did. Imagine what they could have done.
You know what his stats were in 2020. Well, yeah, the year before.
Are you talking about Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams, yeah.
Okay, let me get those back up for you real quick. So when you look at I believe it was 2022 when he had Jordan Addison. No. First of all, when he was at Oklahoma and he came in for relief for Spencer Rattler, 21-4. When he had Jordan Addison, 42-5. Last year with no Jordan Addison and kind of a average receiving core, 30-5.
Yeah.
3,633 yards. But
yeah.
the year before, when he actually had a real receiver, 4,537 yards.
Yeah.
Right? So, career, 72 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. No, I'm sorry. 93 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. 14 interceptions. And you're talking about an offense where you got to throw the ball. And here's the crazier part. In 2022, when he had Jordan Addison, you know how many pass attempts he had? Just give me a wild guess in the dark.
Pass attempts he had?
Did he have in 2022?
Oh, man.
Give me a wild guess in the dark. It'll blow your mind.
Close to 300.
Add 200.
Whoa. Caleb
Williams in 2022 threw the ball 500 times.
Wow.
Guess how many completions he had? Just guess how many. Just give it a number. Give me a number. Think about throwing a ball 500 times and how hard that is on the arm. Give me a number. Give me like a quick number. Something of the guess that he completed.
3-something.
333. Last year, he threw the ball 388 times. Guess how many completions? 266 with an inconsistent team.
Ooh.
So, yeah. And how many yards did he have career? And only two, mind you, 2.5 seasons because he didn't play all the games when he came in for Spencer Rattler. 10,082 yards.
Wow.
And besides Jerry Rice Jr., name his receiver from last year. Name him. And everybody points to the Notre Dame game. Listen, man, you're going to have stinkers sometimes, all right? He was playing Notre Dame at night at Notre Dame. They've been kicking Notre Dame's butt. It happens. It's okay. I promise you. It's okay, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to win all the games.
And one thing I like about him going to the Bears, you get Luke Getsy, you get him out of there, and then you Shane Waldron. When you say Shane Waldron, you're like, who was that? Well, he was the Seattle Seahawks coordinator for like the last 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. So Seahawks offense is not a bad offense. If you really sit back and look at it, their offense wasn't bad. So then you bring in a pass happy quarterback with all these weapons. Keenan Allen just coming off a career year.
You know who his lead receiver was last year?
Caleb Williams.
Taj Washington. 59 catches for 1,062 yards, 8 touchdowns. Taj Washington.
Is he coming in the draft too?
He's a senior. Now, let me tell you something. Now, this is unrelated. Let me give you a name. If you watch me and the Sports Judge, we did a show where I did a special about a certain player. Watch this name, bro. Watch this name. You ready for this? Name is Deuce Washington. He used to be a tight end. He's now a receiver. Check out these measurables. Well, first of all, this is freshman year. 16 catches, 351, 2 touchdowns. But he's 6'6", 225. Remember that name, ladies and gentlemen, Deuce Robinson, out of Phoenix, Arizona. But yeah, Taj Washington, Rice, Robinson. You had Branch. You had a bunch of I'm not gonna say a bunch of nobodies. Not gonna disrespect anybody, but he played with a bunch of dudes, man, who just did not get it done. His lead running back only had 116 carries for 820 yards.
Wow.
You know, he's going to have a better running game coming into the National Football League. He's going to have a better team around him. And these Bears are actually they're actually providing a winner.
They setting him up for success in his first season. If you think about it, you really sit back and look at it. They setting him up for success.
Well, let me ask you this: when people say that the Bears failed Justin Fields, did they really fail Justin Fields? Did Justin Fields fail himself?
Might be a little bit of both.
I think so as well, because I think that last year, because honestly, I think the problem we have in sports a lot of times, there's a thing called accountability, right? What was everybody saying about the Bears going into last year? They're going to do what? They're going to do what? They're going to win the NFC North. They're going to do this and that. If anybody goes back to my Facebook post, what did I say was going to happen to them game one? The Packers were going to smack them. And what did the Packers do? They smacked them. They smacked them all around the field because they knew the Bears weren't ready. The Bears were not ready, man. The Bears weren't ready. Now, if we go back to USC's schedule, right, and you look at the points they gave up, check this out, bro. They gave up 28 points to San Jose State. All right, cool. They gave up 14 to Nevada. Not too bad, but they scored 66. So he scored 56. He scored 66 against Nevada. He scored 56 against Stanford. They only gave up 10. He beat Arizona State at Arizona State 42-28. They beat Colorado 48-41. They beat Arizona 43-41. They're getting up all these points. They lost in the Notre Dame 48-20. They lost to Utah 34-32, which it's Utah. Utah is a good football team. We can't really say much about that. Here's the funny part. They beat Cal 50-49. They gave up 49 points to Cal.
Yeah.
49 points, bro, to Cal.
Defense was booty.
Yeah, they played Washington with guess who? Michael Penix Jr., who should have been the Heisman, who was in the national championship game. Caleb scored 42.
Yeah.
They gave up 52. At Oregon, they lost to a really good Oregon team at Oregon. They lost 36-27. That Oregon team was not giving up a lot of points, my friend. They lost to UCLA 30-20. They kept giving up a lot of points. And then finally, they beat Louisville where Caleb didn't play. So all I'm saying is that this Bears defense is going to be better. You bring in some veterans. Now, you don't draft a Brock Bowers because you have a tight end. But in your opinion, what do you think about the Caleb Williams slander? And when I say slander, I mean, I don't mind people get criticized. But some of the stuff we're seeing on the internet is just, I call it trash. I call it people just trying to be famous and not bringing the real facts. What's your opinion on that?
There were some rumors about him wanting to own the stake of the team too. Now, I don't know if that was true or not.
Hey, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
You got baseball players who possibly have stakes in teams. You got hockey players who could possibly ask for a stake in a team. You have this person who could get stake in a team. See, Larry, let me get serious. I've been serious this whole time. I really haven't been doing much playing because usually me and we play, joke, whatever. But this has been a really serious show because it's just one of those things where it just pisses me off a lot. That shows the mindset of people out there. You go to a job, right? Like let's say you go to a job and you work at a job, and let's say they have stock options. You're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to seem selfish. You know how stupid you look. Or you know something? And they mentioned this the other day, and it was so funny, right? Do you know the people who bought into Netflix in 2007 that they paid almost a total of $2,000 in Netflix subscriptions up to now? If they would have took that $2,000 and invested it into the Netflix stock, they would have over $311,000 right now.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So my thing is that the people who are getting upset at Caleb Williams, I think they're getting upset because they're like, oh, this brother's woken up and he's not just see the thing about football is it's such a violent sport. One hit and your career is done. Your life could be over with. So why not try to ask? Why not try to inquire? Hey, what would happen if I can get some ownership? What's wrong with asking? And I hear people say he should stay in his lane and he should do this. Why? Because he's asking to get a piece of the pie. I mean, America's been getting pieces of the pie from folks forever.
Stealing.
Why can't you know what? I won't gonna say it, but stealing, yes, that's a good word, stealing. And listen, folks, we're not making anything up. These are historical facts. It just is what it is. We're American. We steal things. That's why we're the greatest country in the world. We steal things and the repercussions. But yeah, what's wrong with Caleb Williams wanting to have a piece of steak? What's wrong with Caleb Williams wanting to own a piece of the team? People are like, how dare you? And why? Because you don't have because you don't have the power to do it. You don't have the power to go up to your boss and say, hey, got stock options and all that stuff. And you can't do that. It's kind of typically illegal. But at the same time, why not? Why not inquire about it? Why not try to make yourself smarter? Why not try to create real generational wealth? Because if you come into the league and you sign a decent contract, but you break your leg, they don't have to keep you. They can go move on to the next.
They'll be looking for that next number one quarterback next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Like you said, why not ask for that? Especially if you're going to be the best quarterback in the league in the near future.
Yeah.
With everything set up for you, it's like everything is set up for him to win. Only thing he's got to do is go out there and get it. You got a run game, you got receivers, and your defense is up. Everything is brewing for you right there.
Everything is brewing for you. And when I look at a guy like Caleb Williams, I look at you look at Patrick Mahomes, right? He has ownership in other sports. That could be something that he could do. If he starts winning and he starts being able to get the Bears to places they haven't been, he could go and invest in things. Like, for example, he could go and invest in WNBA teams because I'm going to guarantee you something right now. The WNBA stock is going to go up with players like Angel Reese, with players like Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, etc. If you are a betting person, you're putting money into actual franchises, definitely look at the WNBA teams. And I think that Caleb Williams being from DC, I think one reason probably going to Washington would have been good was, let's say Angel Reese does get drafted to Washington, or she gets drafted to one of these cities that he would be in. Let's say she got drafted to Chicago. I mean, you got star power. Caleb Williams brings star power. Again, the whole thing about the nails and all that, man, that ain't none of my business. And listen, it ain't none of my business what another grown man does. If that's what you want to do, you know what? That's your business, bro. I ain't got no problem. I ain't got no issue or problem with you do as a grown man, because the only thing I'm worried about is the lady I'm looking at every day. What you do ain't my business. And I think as other grown men, we need to stop worrying about what other grown men do and handle our business at home.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, just stop worrying about these young dudes are different, guys. They're not like we were. But if you go back to the 80s, dudes was wearing nail polish and tight clothes and all that. I mean, everything comes around. You know what I'm saying?
And it's Rob dressed in a wedding dress. I mean, he had nails and everything too. So
listen, here's the thing. I think somebody told me about that. They were like, oh, did he wear a wedding dress? Did Caleb Williams wear a wedding dress or something like that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either, but I'm like, they were talking about the nails and all that stuff. I'm like, painting them. I'm like, well, Jeff Hardy painted his nails. Women love Jeff Hardy. Dennis Rodman wore a dress and did all this deal that. I don't, like I said, not condoning it. That's not my business. I wouldn't do it. I did do a prank one time in high school, which I regret to this day. We're not gonna get into that. But anyway, Why the hell did I do that? Anyway, I'm glad we didn't have footage of this shit. Excuse my language. Sorry, I cursed. Sorry.
Get the
But
sense.
yeah, I didn't. I got to censor myself. I don't have a button tonight, but I'll get it. But you know, Dennis Rodman, yeah, he wore the clothes and he was flamboyant, but he hung out with Hogan. You know, he was on TV. He was out there grabbing 15 rebounds a game. So if you can play, that's all that counts, man. And I think Caleb Williams can play. And I think that anybody thinks he can't play is just at this point just trying to just find something to talk about.
His pro day is this week, right?
I believe so. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
and pro days are as controlled can be. And people were trying to say, "Oh, he didn't throw at the combine," but he should have to throw at the combine. You know what I'm saying? And this is the problem with today's This is the problem with today's sports, right? Back in the day, people complain about the bowl games and why didn't he play in the bowl game? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why. Back in the day, when they only had 10 or 11 games, guys were excited to play in the bowl games. But now you got 12, 13 games. You got to play 3 or 4 games just to win a championship. Bro, by the time these dudes get in the league, they'll be retired by the time they're 29. Why do you think everybody's retiring so early?
And not to mention, you added more games onto this college football playoff, too.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. And now they're talking about a 14 team, 16. Bro, before you know it, it'll be 28 teams and the regular season won't even matter.
If they do that, there's no need of anybody. There's no need of no combine because that is your combine, pretty much.
Exactly. And these players need to put their foot down.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason people don't like Caleb Williams because, see, people can talk all they want to about this and that. The NBA's empowerment movement pissed a lot of people off because a lot of people just want people to stay in their place. Let's just keep it real. A lot of people just want players to stay in their place and they want the owners to just be the ultimate rulers. But then they hate the owners because they're rich. People can't make their minds up.
Right.
Like, which one do you want?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But anyway, Larry, man, like I said, we're going on an hour and 22. We're hitting the 11 o'clock hour. Great show tonight, sir. A lot of great points, a lot of great information. Anything you need to tell the people, give them your socials. So I know you told me before, tell me your social medias and all that stuff again, sir.
And man, appreciate you having me on. Great content tonight. Another great show.
Yes, sir.
On again.
WrestleMania coming up soon,
WrestleMania coming up. Big WrestleMania, man.
And especially with all the matches we got coming and everything like that, oh, it's going to be beautiful. And what The Rock is doing right now,
oh man. But you guys can reach out. You can check me out on Facebook, YouTube at Game Time Sports Network, and on Instagram at Game Time 365 Sports, and I'm on TikTok as well at GT365SN. Follow me.
Are you gonna be doing anything special as far as talking about Longwood next couple of days leading up to the tournament? Any like special type of anything?
I might give him a little something. I had an interview with Coach Griff tonight at the election Sunday.
That's big.
Reveal party. So yeah, I may do a little something else leading up to the game. You know, talking about Houston too as well. So guys, check me out, man.
Definitely. Make sure you guys. We got 2 likes in the building. Let's make sure we get those likes up, guys. Make sure we get those likes up, those likes, and make sure you get those shares. We try to put out the best content here. The Legacy Maker. This has been episode 43 of the Rob Johnson Sports Show. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow night as we will be talking WWE, and some other stuff. But for Larry Patterson, for Rob Johnson, see y'all next time.